So this morning, thanks for joining us. And this morning we have Leora Hoffman, who was born in Israel and raised in Brooklyn, New York. After graduating from law school in 1982, Leora lived and worked in London before moving to Washington, D.C., where she began her career as a practicing attorney in the field of criminal defense and civil litigation. In 1986, she joined the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, where she served as an attorney in the Trading and Markets Division. In 1989, after the birth of her second child, she left the federal government to start her matchmaking business, focusing on professional singles in the Washington, D.C. and Baltimore area. In 1999, Leora returned to the practice of law, establishing a private practice in D.C. Family Court, representing children in the neglect system.
That's hysterical.
While concurrently running her matchmaking business, Leora joined the Office of the Attorney General of D.C. and served as an Assistant Attorney General in the Child Protection Division, where she served until 2015. At that point, she left the legal profession to expand her matchmaking company. Leora is a frequent public speaker in the area of relationships and matchmaking and has appeared on public, cable, and network TV, public radio, and podcasts. She has been featured in numerous newspaper and magazine articles, including Bethesda Magazine, the Washington Jewish Week, the Washington Times, and the Baltimore Sun. Leora currently specializes in the 50-plus demographic, and over her 31 years in business, Leora has been responsible for 76 marriages and hundreds of long-term relationships. She currently resides in Garrett Park, Maryland, with her husband, Jim, whom she married in 2013. And with that, I'll hand the mic to Leora.
That auspicious introduction, Erin. Good morning and welcome, everyone. And thanks for being here to talk about my book, Catch Me a Catch, Chronicles of a Modern Day Matchmaker. I wrote this book as a memoir and a journey of not only what matchmaking is all about, but my own personal search for love and how it intersected with the business for over 31 years. And to give you a feel, I'm going to jump right in to chapter 1, because it is not only a professional journey, but a personal one as well, and one which I'll explain a little further. So grab a cup of coffee and enjoy the just the experience of having me do some reading for you. Chapter 1, my last first date. Noting the irony of the entryway, I walked through the revolving door to a popular neighborhood restaurant called Founding Farmers to meet Jim. The door seemed to be an apt symbol of my dating life, given that I had been on dozens of dates, mostly through online introductions since my second divorce 12 years earlier. This one, however, was different. Good friends introduced us, and they knew us both very well. The wife was my good friend and a couples therapist, so I trusted her judgment. The husband was Jim's old friend and work colleague who had seen Jim through the loss of his wife 6 years earlier. As such, he was heavily invested in helping Jim move on. The couple told Jim that I was a lawyer working for the DC Attorney General in the Child Protection section. They told me that Jim was chief psychologist in a treatment-based correctional facility in Maryland. So we were well matched professionally, which was a good start. They had worked incessantly for 2 years to get us together. Finally, we agreed. The time had come. I saw Jim wave to me as I approached the bar and immediately felt a mixture of nervousness and resignation. We had exchanged photos, so I knew who to look for. Unfortunately, this made things a bit more awkward for me initially because I didn't feel that he was my type. It was a visceral response on my part that I tried to put aside in the interest of keeping an open mind. While I wanted to like him, I had my doubts, especially after our initial phone call, which had not gone all that well. On top of that, he had described himself through several emails in terms that I didn't find all that appealing. So here we were, Jim having obliged his friend to meet me, and me feeling so tired of dating that I had almost resigned myself to accepting my fate of remaining single. After all, I was blessed in so many other ways. I had 2 children who were my pride and joy, despite having raised them under highly stressful conditions. I had pulled myself together after 2 divorces, built an interesting career, had a loving circle of family and friends, managed to travel often, and generally had a happy life. I finally concluded that I would be okay without a man, but in my heart of hearts, I longed for the love that was missing from my life. To my surprise, I found Jim charming, wickedly funny, and incredibly sharp. About halfway into my first glass of wine, I became increasingly engaged in the conversation and intrigued by this man. His journey had been a heart-wrenching one, and he openly shared his experience with complete honesty without becoming melodramatic or overly emotional. I admired his devotion to his late wife, whose illness had dragged on for many years. Since then, Jim had tried online dating, and we exchanged anecdotes about some of those experiences, laughing at the various characters we'd encountered and at ourselves for handling some of those situations so pathetically. Once I gathered up the courage, I told him that I was a professional matchmaker. Jim paused and asked, "Well, what the hell are you doing here?" I couldn't blame him for asking. He must have thought I'd have the quote, pick of the litter from my population of single male clients and didn't need to be on a blind date. My cheeks burned as I explained to him how my professional ethics prevented me from dating my own clients. Therefore, it had been even harder for me to meet a quality man. Jim understood right away and tried to make me feel better by reassuring me that he felt awkward about dating too and wished there were an easier way for him as well. The evening sped by as fast as the wine flowed, and we lingered over our salads for hours. I found myself confiding in this man for some unknown reason, sharing things about my life I would have never disclosed on a first date. He responded to the trust that I had placed in him and reciprocated. It was touching. We also laughed often and easily together and discovered that we shared a similar sense of humor and skeptical outlook on life. Before we knew it, it was 11 p.m. on a school night, so Jim asked for the check, which I was pleased about, and we called it a night. As we exited the restaurant into the cold March night, I realized just how much fun I'd had, absent any flirtation on either our parts, unlike so many dates I'd experienced in the past. Standing outside awkwardly and trembling in the bitter cold, neither of us knew exactly how to end the evening. I wasn't sure what I really wanted, but thanked him politely and said that it was nice to have finally met him. He made no move to give me a goodbye hug or kiss. Instead, he said the same and we parted ways. During my drive home, I played the evening over again in my head. That was by far the most interesting and substantive conversation I've ever had on a first date, I thought. But who knows whether I'll ever see him again. I resumed the frenetic activity of my life, and after 5 days, I hadn't heard from Jim. Well, that was that, I thought. By the end of the week, however, I was surprised to get an email from him. He wrote that while he had enjoyed our conversation very much and could, quote, see how we could build on that, end quote, he was unsure about the chemistry between us. My ego was somewhat stung by his lack of passion toward me. I didn't know how to respond. Part of me thought, you're the guy, why are you putting this on me? If you like me, then just ask me out again. On the other hand, I found myself happy to hear from him and respected his honesty. Was I interested in seeing him again? The question brought to bear years of experience coaching clients in my matchmaking practice. I had witnessed many couples work out after an initial period of uncertainty. You never know, I told myself. So I decided to take my own advice because deep down, I didn't want to let this go. In my usual diplomatic style, I responded, it's nice to hear from you. I very much enjoyed our evening together too. For me, chemistry is the result of spending time with someone and developing a comfort zone and connection with that person over time. I'd therefore be happy to get together again and see where this goes. Actually, that wasn't true at all. My past relationships had generally gotten started with a strong physical attraction that led to a series of broken hearts. I realized that this might be a much healthier situation, at least a different one, since I wasn't invested in the outcome either way. So that gives you a feel for the personal side and how I plunged into this project, really wanting to really, as my good friend and colleague Joe Sperling described, pull back the curtain on what matchmaking is all about and what the life of a matchmaker is all about. And so I wrote this book really originally as a marketing piece. When I began the business over 30 years ago, I went to a consultant and he helped me develop a business plan. And one of the first things he told me was, write a book. That's going to be your best marketing piece. And 30 years ago, when I was starting the business, I really didn't know what I would even say in a book. And so I had that idea in the back of my mind for decades. And as I developed the business over the years, I would tell my friends about various stories I encountered. And I had one very good friend who was a very talented author who said to me, Leora, you've got to write this stuff down. This is too good not to memorialize. And he encouraged me over the years to write. And I wrote this book as actually a tribute to him because very tragically, he died of a heart attack at 68 years old. And the shock of his death, along with all the encouragement that he had given me over the years, inspired me to start writing. And so it began, as I said, as the idea of a marketing piece, but then very quickly began and turned into more of a cathartic journey for me. And also, really what I learned in writing this was the roots of why I became a matchmaker. And so this book contains really all the emotions that one deals with as a matchmaker. And in every situation, I have a scenario that describes it. It really contains all the range of human emotions, from humor to sadness to frustration to irony to hope. And I'll give you a further sense in the practice of what I encounter. This is chapter 7, First Date Follies. Sometimes couples are quick to jump ship over deal breakers that may or may not come to fruition. Mark, a successful Jewish real estate developer in his early 50s living in Richmond, Virginia, fit this scenario perfectly. He was a tall, nice-looking fellow with warm blue eyes and a trim physique. He had divorced decades earlier and never had children of his own. He hoped to meet a single mom since he was so family-oriented and loved the idea of having a potential step-family. Mark had been involved in several long-term relationships since his divorce. He had built himself a beautiful new home complete with all the latest electronics, including a home theater, which he could share with a potential partner or a wife. Like many clients of his ilk, he was extremely picky about his partner's looks and would only consider meeting exceptionally attractive women. I understood his standards and recruited a fabulous attorney named Shelley for him. A Jewish woman in her late 40s living in the DC area, Shelley was divorced with 2 grown children whom she was very close with. She was a beautiful, elegant woman with shoulder-length blonde hair, green eyes, and an athletic figure. When Mark saw her photo, he was more than happy to make the 3-hour drive from Richmond to meet her. It was worth a try, I reasoned, since Shelley had expressed her wish to settle down with a financially solid man, and she was willing to consider relocating to his area if they were to become seriously involved. As I eagerly awaited his feedback after their first date, I gauged the probability of success for this match to be very high. They were both Jewish, attractive, successful, and motivated, having resolved to make whatever adjustments were necessary to make a relationship work. Mark called the following day and said, "Well, I honestly don't know what to make of this situation. I've never encountered an issue like this before. We were having a great time," he continued. "We seemed to hit it off right away, and were chatting over dinner when the subject of funerals came up for some reason. I'm not sure why she even brought up the subject, but she mentioned that she had recently decided she wanted to be cremated. I was stunned. First of all, she was raised in a conservative Jewish household, so I was really taken aback that a Jewish person would stray from the traditional Jewish burial practices. As for me, I've already reserved a burial plot for myself. I would never marry anyone who wasn't interested in being buried alongside me, pure and simple. I wasn't sure what to say and asked, "Are you saying that because of this issue, you don't think you want to see her again?" "I really don't know," he responded. "I really liked her, but the cremation thing feels like a deal breaker for me." I thought for a moment and then said, "Mark, if I were you, I'd worry more about living with a person at this point than dying with them." He couldn't but laugh at the absurdity of the conversation. "Seriously," I continued, "I understand your concerns, but realize where we are in this process. There's a huge continuum between being on a first date and making final decisions with someone. A love relationship, which of course takes time, needs to be built before those issues can even be discussed. I've seen people make major changes for the right person as they got to know them and became more committed to them. Suppose you fell in love and asked her to agree to a burial. Who's to say she wouldn't make that adjustment given where you might be in your relationship? Of course, that's not something you could even know at this point, so it seems foolish to throw away possibilities for an issue that's so far down the road. I recommend that you focus on the positives at this point and see if you can build on those." Mark thought for a while and agreed to ask her out again. They had 2 more dates where neither of them mentioned the subject again, but the relationship never progressed any further. The deal breaker for Mark turned out to be Shelley's slow response time in returning his calls and her seeming need to control every aspect of their planning. While the outcome was disappointing, that concern, rather than some far-removed issue, made much more sense to me as a matchmaker trying to figure out where dating non-starters occur. So that gives you a flavor of some of the issues that I, as a matchmaker, have dealt with. I've also had the pleasure and the joy of getting people together who have married. Oh, hi, Sabrina. Thank you. I'm glad you got on. And who have passed away. Chapter 26 in my book, entitled "In Sickness and in Health," talks about a couple I matched. And I want to be mindful of time here. So do I have a little bit of time to read this chapter to give you a feel?
Keep going.
Keep going, you do. You do.
Okay. All right.
This is way too enjoyable.
Okay, thank you. In Sickness and in Health. Leo and Rhonda were in their late 60s when I introduced them. She was divorced with grown children and had been on her own for over 10 years. She was a stylish and elegant woman who enjoyed fashion and looked more like a New Yorker than a native Washingtonian, despite the fact that she had grown up in Chevy Chase. I recruited Leo to meet her through a scout of mine who had met him at a singles dance. He was a partner in a prestigious law firm and looked and acted the part. When I sat down with Leo to vet him on Rhonda's behalf, I was surprised to discover a deeply emotional man under his alpha male exterior. He quickly warmed to me and confided in me about the painful loss of his marriage in the midst of his recovery from a near fatal illness. He had been diagnosed with leukemia when he was in his 50s and on top of his game, both professionally and personally. His marriage of 25 years had been fairly solid, and he had enjoyed the fruits of his success by providing his family with an enviable home, lavish vacations, and private school education for his 2 children. Leo's diagnosis came as a complete shock to his then wife, Valerie. She could not wrap her mind around the fact that Leo was no longer her pillar of strength, but vulnerable and in need of empathy and support for what he was about to endure. Sadly, Leo learned that once he was no longer the dream husband he had been to Valerie, she became resentful and was unable to rally on his behalf. This was a huge blow to Leo, who was having enough trouble adjusting to his treatments without the additional heartache of discovering that his wife was not the woman he'd always presumed her to be. Slowly, they became increasingly estranged from each other during a time when he needed her more than ever. Miraculously, Leo survived. However, his marriage to Valerie did not. It turned out to be a very public and contentious divorce, which embittered Leo and put him off of marriage altogether for quite some time. When he met Rhonda, however, he was able to recognize the loving woman she was, and a part of him that had previously shut down opened up to her. For the first time in decades, he experienced the love he had longed for with Valerie, and his former unhappiness dissolved as his relationship with Rhonda deepened. They moved in together after 6 months, got engaged, and 3 months later held an intimate June wedding ceremony in the backyard of the house they had purchased together. Their home was the perfect venue for the wedding. It was a showcase of style and warmth, and a reflection of their shared tastes. Between them, they had 5 adult children who rejoiced for them, despite their misgivings at the beginning of their relationship. They were blissfully happy for 6 years when tragically Leo's illness returned. They had known that there was a risk that this could happen, but had moved forward anyway. This time, however, Leo had the love and devotion of Rhonda, who single-handedly committed herself to his recovery. When it eventually became clear that he wasn't going to make it, she became his angel of mercy who loved him unconditionally until the very end. At his memorial service, Rhonda told me that despite this devastating loss, she felt that she had made the right choice. Their marriage of 6 years had been the happiest time of her life, and she still had hope that one day she'd have someone to love and care for her when her time came. I was reminded.
Echo, stop.
Sorry?
Nothing.
I was reminded of how extraordinary a woman she was and wished the same for her as well. After a 2-year period of mourning, Rhonda returned to me as a client. Unfortunately, lightning didn't strike twice for her. While she will always cherish the love she and Leo had shared, she appreciated the opportunity to get out there and feel alive once again. And in my afterword, I recap the stories of many of the couples I described through the body of the book. And there's a postscript for Rhonda where I'll start as follows. Rhonda, who was widowed from Leah, re-engaged my services in her 70s and was fortunate to experience a 3-month relationship with Mason, a man in his early 80s whom I introduced to her and who quickly fell head over heels for her. While she enjoyed the attention and intimacy between them, she ultimately decided that he was not the man for her. It did, however, serve as a reminder to her that even at her age, it's possible to experience a romantic spark as powerfully as ever. And so, how is this relevant to seniors in this organization? It's relevant because the message of my book is, first of all, it's never too late. Love can emerge at any stage if people are open to it. And in fact, the senior market, which is more and more a specialty of mine, is one I get so much fulfillment out of because, as in Rhonda's case, it demonstrates how she could really engage in a situation and in a relationship knowing there was a risk. As in any relationship, one has to put oneself out on a limb, knowing that things might not work out. But I wrote this book really to provide people a message of hope, that it's always possible. Secondly, I wrote this book to really take the stigma off of couples work. As the book describes the emerging courtship between Jim and I, and it goes into great detail about the issues that I grappled with the loss of his previous wife and the fact that in some ways I felt that I was living in her shadow at the beginning of our relationship and had to work through, excuse me, those issues. It then goes on to describe our courtship, our very first international trip together, which we had taken really as a leap of faith only 3 months into our relationship, and learned a lot about each other, both good and bad. And the book goes into those stories as well. And as you know, I ended up marrying Jim, and I'm not going to say living happily ever after, because part of the message for the book is that a great relationship takes work. It doesn't happen on its own. And when you get together later in life, as Jim and I have, I was 56 when I married him, he was 62. It isn't, people are formed and their personalities are fully developed. And so conflicts do arise. And Jim and I sought couples therapy and had a wonderful experience with a very talented couples therapist who every now and then we check in with, who gave us a technology to work out inevitable conflicts and issues which arise. And so I wanted to take the taboo out of doing couples work away to say that every couple really and every relationship needs work. And as we approach Valentine's Day, I wanted to give people a sense that romance is alive, that optimism reigns, and that, we've all been through a really difficult and challenging time. But as we approach Valentine's Day, I hope if you have that special someone in your life, you will definitely make them feel special. And if you don't and are looking for that special somebody, that you might be prepared to really take that leap of faith and try something new, whether it means going to a matchmaker, whether it means online dating, whether it means joining a club where you might meet people, joining a synagogue or a church, really taking steps to change that status. And I hope that this book will give people that inspiration. I have several more things I could read, but I wanted to open it up to questions and see if anybody has comments.
Meryl, you have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, yes, I know. Give me a second. Okay. Leora, I did not know how much you and I had in common, because I went into a relationship where my husband-to-be lost his wife to Parkinson's and pancreatic cancer. And he was the caregiver. He had been interviewed by Hospice Caring, and he was with her till she took her last breath, which makes the situation even harder, because he was round the clock. So I also had to deal with some of those issues, and you work through it. It takes the other partner also to understand, that he was coming into a situation where I was divorced, and I had been divorced for 20 years. So, but it does take work, and everything you said is so true. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Meryl. I lost part of it. The screen froze. Maybe you could just recap that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. It does take a lot of work, especially because I am in the same situation as you, coming in, I was divorced for 20 years, and Mike had lost his wife to pancreatic and cancer and Parkinson's disease. So it does take work. And I didn't realize how much you and I really had in common with the relationship part. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, as Joe said, I tried to pull back the curtain really on my life, as well as the lives of and the scenarios that I handle as a matchmaker, which, as I said, runs the gamut of human emotion. And, that's why it's so fulfilling for me, because I really get to the heart of the matter with people, to the essence of who they are, and to, what it means and what their vision of a good relationship looks like. And as I said, you know, and as the book emphasizes, it's not about perfection. It's about making the right connection. And the connection is really what is the most important aspect. And so the book talks about people who got it, and some of whom really were able to parlay that into meeting and cultivating the right relationship, and some people who didn't get it, who, despite my best advice, you know, could not, or, you know, wouldn't embrace the possibilities, or, you know, were overly narrow in their vision of what the right relationship looked like for them. And so, you know, hopefully in reading this, one will walk away from this feeling that not only do they understand better the practice of matchmaking, which since I started 30 years ago has become much more popular. Funny, when I first started the business and I actually had people marry through my practice, they were so embarrassed to tell their family and friends how they met. They lied to them and told them they met through friends. They wouldn't even tell them they went to a matchmaker. And in fact, I used to get quite insulted in the beginning that I wasn't invited to weddings of people I actually matched. And I realized that it was because they were just embarrassed about the idea of meeting through a matchmaker. Thankfully, you know, over 30 years later, that taboo has disappeared. And everybody's out there, you know, hiring different services and online dating. But I wanted to also emphasize what makes me different from online dating in writing this book. And it's really knowing people, you know, knowing people and their struggles and how to communicate things in a way that's palatable to people, and where they can really, as I said, keep an open mind, as I did, because, you know, the book talks about, I wasn't sure about Jim in the beginning. And, you know, it's now that we've been married 7 years, and, you know, it becomes a deeper and more meaningful relationship with everything we encounter in life. And the pandemic has certainly been the ultimate test of relationships. You know, the litmus test is there. If you can endure the togetherness and, you know, not kill each other, then, you know, you're on the right track. And we are. Yes, Joe, you had a comment.
Oh, I was just going to say that I think the book demonstrates that love, like life, is complicated. And it's not just a straight line, and it's not the same for everyone. I think the stories that you tell in the book and that you've described this morning, the subtext is a lot depends on what you bring to the relationship or you bring to life. If your attitude is positive, if you are an optimist, you see the good in things and people, it helps. If it's all doom and gloom, that doesn't help. But we're all, you know, we're all on the same blue marble here. We all should try to make the best of it. And I think if you haven't read the book, folks, it's a great read. It's candid. It tells, and Patricia has the book to show everyone. It's worthwhile, and you don't have to sit down and read it from cover to cover at one time. You can take in small bites and savor the flavor of it.
If I may, I'd like to end this talk with a reading from the afterword very briefly. You'll get a kick out of this, I hope. Okay, this is in the afterword. I continue to collaborate with other professionals in the field. One of my trusted colleagues runs a service that assists clients with online dating. Her expertise lies in ensuring that her clients present themselves as effectively as possible. During a recent dinner meeting, I asked her whether she might have anyone for a new client of mine, a divorced woman named Ellen who was in her early 60s. Ellen was looking for a successful professional man close to her age who shared her liberal politics. She excitedly told me that she had just enrolled 2 nice new men into her age in her age group, either of whom might work for Ellen. Let's take them one at a time, I told her. Okay, she said. Let's start with Henry. He's 64, has his own consulting company, and lives in Springfield, Virginia. Unfortunately, that won't work, I told her. Ellen works downtown, lives in Columbia, and has a puppy she has to walk every evening after work. The logistics just wouldn't work between them. Can you tell me about bachelor number 2, I joked. Sure, she said. Actually, I have to tell you, I think I performed a miracle with his photo. He had been using a photo that didn't do him justice at all. His clothes were all wrong, and the angle of the photo, as well as the background, were distracting. I advised him to buy all new clothes and sent him links to several clothing websites with specific styles I thought would flatter him. He took my advice. Here, take a look. She turned her laptop around so that I could see both his before and after shots. My face turned crimson and must have registered shock. What's wrong? She asked. After taking a second to gather myself, I exclaimed, that's my ex-husband, Howard. She was stunned. We both broke into hysterical laughter.
You should have gone the other way.
Your ex? Never in a million years would
So
I ever put you two together. I
I would never put anyone together with Howard, but that's me.
know, I said. We're so different. Most people who've met the two of us, mainly through the kids, can't believe we were ever married. That was also a very long time ago, I added, as if to justify myself to her. When I examined the photos more closely, I was impressed. She had wisely counseled Howard to update his look with more current and flattering style, something I had tried to do during our marriage. He was still a very good-looking man, and the finished product was amazing. She had created an image that brought out the very best in his features and had captured him with the wry smile I remembered so well. He would actually make a great match for Ellen, I said, but I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. That would be highly unprofessional, not to mention embarrassing. She completely agreed, so we moved on to other clients as we continued to chuckle over this for the rest of the evening. So again, you know, these are part and parcel of the adventures of a matchmaker. One never knows what situations one is going to encounter, and Howard never heard about that scenario.
I won't tell him.
Okay. So anyway, I hope you'll read the book. I have put my contact information in the chat. It's available on Amazon.com. But if anyone on this call would like a signed copy from me personally, I am happy to do that if you contact me directly, and we can do a drive-by, pick up the book situation. I live in Garrett Park, if that's convenient for people. So I'd be happy to do it safely and with a mask and all of that. But if you just want to get the book on Amazon, you know, it's available on the link, and on my homepage, it has of my website, which is on the chat. It also has a link to the book. So I do appreciate your attention today, and thank you for participating. And if you have any other questions or comments, I'd be happy to field them, or call me later and we can discuss it. The feedback is really so helpful. And if any of you are inclined to post a review after you read the book on Amazon, I would be so appreciative. So thanks again for your attention today.
Yes, Meryl?
Leora, I can really understand the elation that you go through when something works. 35 years ago, I guess I'm dating myself, I introduced this guy to this girl. And I said, Peter, she's a chiropractor. And his response was, oh, my back hurts already. They are married, they have 2 children, and they're both very successful. And she was Jewish, he was not. But little did we know, in the back of his head, he always wanted to convert to Judaism. So it's a wonderful feeling when you see 2 people, you know, that, well, you know, and I think in this day and age, you know, don't be afraid to do that. As many of you know, I know somebody, I'm not going to mention names, of course, and he had confided in me that he had lost his wife and that he was starting to think about the dating world. And I said, I'm going to introduce you to Leora. And damn, if the first date wasn't the beginning of the full relationship. And so it does work. It definitely does work. And you know what? If you introduce two people and they don't like each other, it's not the end of the world.
You just never know.
You just look, you know, I was about to go off Match.com and look what happened to me. So.
Yeah,
Do
that
you
was
have any further
especially
comments or
gratifying.
questions?
I'm sorry?
Any further comments or questions I'm asking?
Oh,
No?
Leora, this was
Oh,
very.
John, I'm sorry, John, yes.
Leora, one thing I picked up in your talk, which was great, you have scouts?
Yes.
How does that work?
So I have networkers, I call them, who are tied to different circles and networks who send me leads. So when I have a client, I presented them to my scouts and they go to their communities and their connections to see if they can send me any potential matches. So that's been a great way for me to recruit people, because when I recruit people for a client I'm searching for, they don't have to pay a fee. They just need to be vetted by me. So that's been a wonderful way that I could expand my sphere of influence and get, you know, people who come recommended, which is always a good start.
That's very cool.
Yeah, thank you.
It's called bird dogging in sales.
I am honored to admit that Leora has used me as a scout at least once. So it was, I never heard the word scout and I rather like it. So thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Nice to see you. Thanks, Leora. Thanks, Sabrina and Meryl. This was great. Thanks, Erin.
Thanks for coming.
So I want to welcome all the new people. We didn't go around yet, did we?
No.
Okay, I want to welcome all the new people. Thanks for joining us, and hopefully you'll attend all the rest of our wonderful meetings. We are going to make introductions now, and I am going to go with some of the new people first. Let's start with Montrella.
Good morning, and I apologize that I don't have my camera this morning. Nice to join you all. My name is Montrella Cowan. I am a therapist, a licensed therapist, but for years, I worked at Fannie Mae as an elder care caregiver consultant, helping employees with their aging parents. So very familiar. I have some articles out there and press releases related to it, and just happy to be a part of this circle. We are based in DC, Affinity Health Affairs, and we do accept insurance. So we can help with those struggling adult children.
Excellent. A reminder, everybody leave their contact information in the chat so we can save the chat and send it around later. We are going to go to Anita now. You're on mute. We can't hear you.
And you couldn't see my sincere apologies. I was, keeping my my camera off. I have some horrible eye infection. So thank you so very much to Leora for this presentation. I think it was just one of the most enjoyable morning meetings I've been for a while. I didn't anticipate having, the nice love stories this, read too, and dying to find out more. So thank you so much. I am a first timer here. So thank you for having me. I was invited by Joe. Thank you, Joe, again.
You're welcome.
And I am a fractional CMO, Chief Marketing Officer with CMO. Obviously, this is a networking event, and this is save yourself from pitching out. So I am just here to kind of network with you and be a part of this group. Thank you.
Thank you. How about Erica?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Melissa Copel with Community Angels actually invited me, and I'm so happy to have the opportunity to connect with everyone on here. And Leora, thank you for sharing your information this morning. It was very interesting and truly eye-opening. It's a great day to get Hump Day and Wednesday started. So thank you so much for that. I really enjoyed your presentation and everything that you shared with us this morning. I am the marketing associate for Willow Manor at Fairland, which are brand new senior apartments in Silver Spring, Maryland. So we do participate in a tax credit program for affordable living for seniors who are 62 and older. So if anyone would like to have any contact information, you can contact me directly. I did share all my information in the chat as well.
Thank you, Erica. Let's move over to Natalie.
Hi everyone, my name is Natalie. I've seen a few of you on some of the gross stuff, but this was much not to say anything negative, but much more fun. Leora, this was an awesome presentation and the book sounds great. And finding love at any age, I mean, is amazing, of course, and I like hearing about it. But yeah, I work for Philia. We are a non-medical home care provider that is centered around providing not only, physical care, but also mental and, psychological safety and keeping people in their home. And we just really support the concept of brotherly love and like non-familial but familial style love. So my contact information is also in the thread, and it's always nice seeing you. I see some familiar faces, Joe and everybody else. But all right, thank you.
Okay, let's move over to Michael visiting from Illinois.
Hi, I'm trying to write something in the chat box, but yeah, I found you guys when I was setting up my own Eventbrite presentations for seniors. I'm a workaholic. I spent about 30 years in sales and marketing in the face-to-face business and consumer. I retired in 2010. But in 2006, I got involved in internet marketing, search engine optimization, LinkedIn, YouTube, WordPress websites, and got my wife on the internet. And in 2010, when I retired, I decided to try to give back for all the blessings, because at that time we were in a recession and trying to work out of it. And so I started doing meetups and programs, and nobody listened to me because it was free. So I started consulting and charging money, and then people started listening to me. And I also started volunteering at SCORE, which is Service Corps of Retired Executives, and for job-seeking organizations, I was doing seminars and webinars for people looking for jobs and using LinkedIn. That eased off. I decided I didn't want to really go back to work after leaving work. So I joined the senior center in our town in Illinois in 2006, where I was playing cards for 4 days a week until COVID struck. In 2017, I started a local senior group myself because it was missing in our neighborhood. We have about 225 people on our email list, and we have about 40 people to our weekly Zoom meetings. This led to my wife and I doing a presentation on 1968. Those were the days, which was well accepted, and we offer it to all senior groups for no charge. And now we're offering trivia games for seniors 60 plus on Eventbrite. And we're starting with 60s music trivia on February 9th. So my contact information is in the chat, and anybody who's looking for free presentations or discussion groups for seniors, we're available. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed this. I didn't know what to expect, and I will be back. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael. Let's move on to John.
Hi, thanks for having me. This is obviously my first time too. Great presentation, Leora. Love listening to it, and I've got to pre-order that or order that book. I'm John D'Annunzio. I run Squarely Digital, a digital marketing agency in Alexandria, Virginia. We do all the kind of things you would expect of a digital marketing agency to do, like pay-per-click and SEO and that sort of thing. But I really specialize in content marketing. I'm an ex-journalist who believes in quality marketing, quality content, excuse me. And so without going into all the spiel, I'll just say this, that besides the content work, I run a series of workshops, some free, some paid. And if you want to just get one piece looked at, one content marketing piece looked at, and kind of figure out if you're doing the right things with it and how you can make it better, come to one of my workshops. The next one is a week from today, Wednesday the 3rd, from noon to 1 on Zoom. And the link is in the chat. Thanks very much for having me.
Thank you, John. And now let's move on to Tom. I think it's your first time also. Hi, Tom.
Hey, good morning, everybody. It is my first time, and I thank you for Meryl, who's invited me here several times, but I haven't been able to get it. But I was prodded by Joe to show up today, and the fact that Leora was going to be the speaker just drew me in. So I'm Tom Shipe. I'm a Long & Foster real estate agent associate broker. I specialize in the senior marketplace. My real passion is working with a senior to help them make the decision to whether to stay in their home or to move to a new community, maybe like an assisted living or a continuing care community. So I spend most of my time doing that. I'm also founding member of Superior Options for Seniors. So I've taken my passion for the seniors beyond just real estate and into other services that Superior Options supplies. So again, it's Tom Shipe, Long & Foster. Thank you for your time and thanks for being here.
Thank you. And let's move on to Deborah.
Oh, hi. Deborah Bissell. I haven't been in a while. I think I came to 2 meetings, and then that's when the pandemic hit. And I may have been on 1 or 2 other meetings. But anyway, Deborah Bissell from Winter Growth. We're an adult day and assisted living, but obviously the adult day is not happening at this moment and hasn't been. But and my duties have kind of changed, and now I'm doing some human resources to fill in a gap that we had here during this time. So anyhow, it's good to see some of the familiar faces. And Leora, I just always enjoy hearing you. And sorry I was late coming into the meeting, had to take care of something this morning. So, but anyway, always good to be with everyone.
Yes, thanks. Let's move on to, how about Julia? We haven't seen you in a long time. You're muted.
Good morning, everybody. Leora, that's a great book. I'm rooting for you to turn it into a movie one day, or even a television series of each and every one of your clients would be fascinating, because the human condition is what everybody's so concerned about with this pandemic. I happen to have had some sadness with clients losing family members and things like that. So emotionally, it's quite draining. I specialize in helping people with their health choices, whether it's Obamacare, outside of the Maryland Health Connection, and also Medicare. It's a big transition going from employee benefits to understanding Medicare, and I make that a simple, easy process and painless. So I'm Julia Rivas. My phone number's in the chat, 240-421-0491. Thank you for a wonderful event this morning.
Yes. Let's move over to Alexis. I don't know how I forgot you.
Good morning, everyone. It's my first time here as well. Meryl invited me yesterday. It was a great presentation, Leora. It was awesome to hear. I'm actually going to order your book as well and read it. But I'm Alexis Quantz. I'm a therapist and social work intern working at Affinity Health Affairs with Montrella. I specialize in children, young adults, and families. And Montrella already told you a little bit about what we do, but we offer therapy to a wide range of clients and a wide range of issues. So if you know anyone that kind of needs some help, send them our way. And I look forward to seeing you all again. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Alexis. How about Melissa?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Leora, I enjoyed every moment of your book, your passages. Oh my goodness, it just reminded me of when I met my husband just 7 years ago, 6 years ago, who's counting? But we met online, and we are totally proud to say that we did because it worked for us. So that was absolutely awesome. Good to see some familiar faces and new faces as well. I'm Melissa Koppel from Community Angels Nursing Services, and we provide home care. companion care, skilled nursing care, not physical occupational therapy, but we have a lot of great nurses that have a high degree of clinical capabilities. We accept private pay as well as Medicaid waiver. And we service all in Maryland. My information is in the chat, so please reach out. And for those who know me, you will get a quick response. And, you know, through this pandemic, you know, we're super excited to be vaccinating. So, you know, we've started getting our caregivers vaccinated. I've had round 1 of Moderna. I'm feeling great this week. So just looking forward to the second dose. And also Erica Lee, thank you so much for joining us today. And guys, please come to the event, Willow Manor at Fairland. There's a drive-by community give back event that I'm sponsoring with Willow Manor, and it's on February 5th. So I expect to see you all drive by. Thank you.
Thanks. Ed?
Sorry about that. Hi, I'm Ed Hogue. I'm Total Insurance Review. We provide unbiased expert insurance advice on a simple membership platform without selling product. I did post in the chat, we have a partnership with Blueprint for Life, which provides a 20+ courses on various life events, and it's free with a link, and it also gives a free trial to their Life Vault system. So we're advocating that as a free trial.
Excellent. Thank you. Gauri.
Hey, good morning, everyone. So good to be here. Thanks, Sabrina and Meryl. These meetings are so much fun. I really enjoy them. And thank you, Leora, for the beautiful presentation. I resonated with each and every single word. I met my husband 14 years ago through a matchmaking kind of arrangement, and it wasn't love at first sight, but love has grown so much between us, and I totally agree with you. You have to work on it. You have to really, it's a journey like everything else. So thank you, it was beautiful. So this is my second meeting, and I'm so great to be here. Joe Sperling invited me. Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
I'm Gauri Chande. I'm the owner of Home Watch Caregivers. We do private duty, non-medical in-home care in Eastern Montgomery County, from Kensington, Silver Spring, all the way up to Burtonsville. And we actually just opened on Monday, so brand new. And really excited to get started. I love this work. I'm a caregiver myself at home. So this is more than a business for me, it's personal. And I'm really excited and to get started and serve clients. So if you know anyone who needs these services, please send them my way. My information is in the chat. Thank you.
And then Joe.
Me?
Yes, you.
Oh, wow. Well, good morning, everyone. And it's great to see those smiling faces that are out there. I'm Joe Sperling, for those that don't know. And I help people plan and protect those things that are important. Protect your families, protect your income, protect your assets, protect your retirement. I work with life insurance, disability, long-term care, and annuities. And I guess the message is, don't be caught like a deer in the headlights. Know that things happen, some good, some bad. If the bad stuff happens, you'll feel a whole lot better if you've planned, put something in place to protect yourself and your family. And that's what I do. I help you feel good. I'm Joe Sperling, but keep in mind,
Not your average Joe.
Thank you for remembering.
Erin.
Hi, I'm Erin. Great to see so many new faces. It's really, I gotta invite some people for next time. And I'm the director of Griswold Home Care in Bethesda. We provide non-medical home care to the Montgomery County area.
Thanks, Erin. Meryl.
Meryl Schaefer. And the first thing I want to say is I think Sabrina, Joe, and I are matchmakers in a way, in that we just match the business world for the senior community. And I want to tell you, the most wonderful feeling is to bring other people together so that we can form a more perfect union for the senior community. And the other thing is, we have some other matchmakers. Erin has brought on people. Melissa has brought on people. And we just need to continue to do this. Anyway, my business is TLC Daily Money Mentor. What I do is I take away the agony and frustration from those who cannot or will not take care of their day-to-day financial affairs. And the ones who love me are the 50 to 60-year-old children, which are all of us. So just remember that Meryl will keep you out of peril and Schaefer will keep your records safer. Thank you. Thank you to all of you. It's just wonderful. So,
Okay,
Sabrina,
and I'm saving myself for last. I'm Sabrina David. My husband and I operate and own Mike's Locksmith and Security. And we are now serving Maryland, DC, and Virginia. We have a new location by the Dulles Airport. And we provide commercial, residential services. We help out with places of worship in schools. So basically, if it goes on a door, we can help with it. We also do security cameras. And we do a lot of keyless locks. Where that's helpful is if somebody is, your elderly parent is working with a caregiver, that caregiver can't get locked out of her house. So we have received phone calls where a caregiver was locked out of their client's home because they just went out to get something, they locked themselves out. So this kind of prevents that kind of stuff. But also as people age, keys are very hard to manipulate and they no longer have to try to manipulate a key. They can just put a code and then enter their home. So it's safer. So anyway, we offer free assessments and you can call us anytime if you have a question, and our estimates are also free. So I'm so glad you guys are here. Our next event is going to be on February 10th, and it's an educational event. It's an introduction to a new product, which is very exciting, a new technology called Lynn. So we welcome you all to come. That's at 9 o'clock in the morning on the 10th. And our next meeting is 2 weeks later on the 24th, 9 o'clock. Oh, sorry. The 10th is 8:30 in the morning.
8:30 to 10.
8:30 in the morning. We're doing a half hour early. Okay, the 24th is our next meeting, like this one. And we'll look forward to seeing everyone at that meeting.